another piece of data here that I just wanted to talk about while I'm up here at the board. We were talking about distance from Pinkerton in our criteria at the last meeting. And I talked to Heather from the library, and she was telling me that they use the town's GIS system to plot every customer that they have. And I can show you here the map. I guess that's a PDF. So this is a PDF, which is, so the resolution is not as good as it is on the GIS system, but they're able to have this all plotted, and they can put in other fields of data to go with this. Like you can see, they've got it done by different regions or something because they have all this different color. And that really wasn't my point, but when I called her up to say, well, you know, how hard was that? And she said it wasn't really hard at all. All they did was provide the town with a spreadsheet. And the interesting thing about the GIS system, just to go back to this, is...
Hey, David, is the town line on there anywhere or no? Yeah, I mean, you can see better than we can.
Yeah, I don't think, this is very low resolution. I mean, to make the whole map on one PDF.
GIS does have some functions.
Yeah. So I did a little research on the GIS, and what's interesting is these are all layers that can be put on. So if this were actually the GIS system, you could pull up all the telephone poles and hooks it if you wanted to, or all the anything that they have mapped in there. So it's a database that they build, and it allows you to lay different layers on. So I called the town hall, and I talked to Joanne Duffy and her assistant Carolyn in planning, and they basically told me that if we provided an Excel spreadsheet, which should come up here, that really this is all that we would have to provide them. And really the only criteria that could be different than another spreadsheet is that you need to have the house number and the whole street address in one field. It's obviously Hooksett and obviously New Hampshire. She said that's as easy as just hitting an import button, and that would go right onto the map and be plotted. Then there are different tools that you could apply to the map to get different information. I asked her about drawing a radius from Pinkerton High School, and she said that would be very simple because they would just need to know they would have the location of Pinkerton, and they could make a 10-mile radius or whatever you wanted, and it would cut across the map and show you what it was. There are stuff you can do, like Phil, you were talking about travel time. You can put that on. You can put the bus route on here and then work with it that way. The other thing that I thought was interesting is you can carry these other fields of data with it that will remain with it on the map. So the first thing I thought of, well, we could put in here an address, and we could put a year of graduation. So we could look at the map and say, show us our 1st through 4th grade, or show us our 4th through 8th grade, or whatever. So if we wanted to kind of see how the map was going to change, particularly as we're talking about high school busing and all that kind of stuff, we would have that in the map to be able to look ahead a little bit. Obviously, if kids moved, they're gonna upset the map. But what we would be able to do is maintain the spreadsheet. If we made changes on the spreadsheet year by year, they would just kill the previous map and then import this again, and that would refresh the whole system. So we wouldn't have to go into the map itself and take care of all those changes.
So David, so in other words, I think you're saying too, like if we, in other words, we're looking at setting a distance criteria or a time criteria, we could plug in different amounts, and that would kind of show us how many kids would kick out, right? So we'd have an idea how many would be looking for an exemption, whatever we want to call it, to go to that school, right?
Well, and I would say yes, probably, because as I had a brief conversation with them today, she was explaining there's a lot of different tools. I don't know exactly what tools they have, but the one that she was telling me about is they use, it's like clusters, so you can show high densities of points, with like shaded area where you have your highest density and all of that. This system is used by the fire department. I think the police department probably now uses it. But it's all built on the same platform, so you can always look at another layer. And Heather was very excited when I told her, well, if we plotted all of our students, we could plot all your customers and we could see if our students are using your library. And she thought that was kind of a novel thing, so I'm just pointing this out. They were very accommodating and basically said if we send them down a spreadsheet, they have a big plotter. They can print this out on if you want to look at it on paper. And then they have these different tools they could apply. So I think it might be a really good opportunity for us to work with them. This might be a good issue to start it, but I think there's other applications that this might come in, especially if we're looking at busing, obviously would be a big one to be able to look at. The other thing I also thought was it might be a great opportunity for some of the kids, because I in looking at this, realized there's now a degree program in GIS itself. Just this whole planning thing is something that is a degree. So this could certainly spark the interest of some of our students. So I just wanted to share that with you. That's really all I have here. And so if we wanted to work with the town, we could get that information together and they'd be willing to do it.
Well, David, that's good. I saw your email on that, and that's actually good you explained it, rather than just having it on paper.
Yep. Well, I gotta say, I was fascinated by the different things that can be done with it.
But David, let me ask you this. So based on that program you were just talking about, is that something that we could, I would say, utilize for the next meeting, you know what I mean? So we'd be able to dice it and slice it out. I don't know, you were talking about the criteria of the spreadsheet, so it would be loaded and we could take it, look at it and say, okay, so again, we can make like an informed decision. And also, I mean, maybe by that time too, we'll have a better idea from Dr. Littlefield what things look like from a contract and from a whatever else that thing's called standpoint.
Right.
You have a better idea of a number?
Well, I think so. I asked them for some preliminary information today that I could bring to the board. And what the ease of it would be, and they didn't seem to be burdened by us coming there at all. They said, hey, let us know what we can do. So, the one thing that she said was, it would be easier if you want any data fields to put them in first, so you don't have to re-enter it. So if you wanted like year of graduation or whatever, putting that in, kind of deciding what you wanted. So my indication was that, and I don't want to speak for them, so I don't know if by the next meeting, but they certainly were accommodating and didn't seem like it was, too big a deal.
What was it said? Oh, I mean, ideally, even if it wasn't fully 100% vested, we'd have more information than we have now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we'd ever get to that point. Dr. Littlefield, if you want to say anything.
And maybe what the board would want to do, depending on what David's time schedule looks like, we might want to make him the liaison from the board for doing this. And then maybe David, myself, and Becky Wing could sit down. Because some of this stuff, we've been playing with this a little bit with some other applications we've gotten our hands on this week. But some of this can be downloaded directly from PowerSchool into a spreadsheet. So it might be a pretty quick,
Yeah.
and then we may want to get into, what other fields and how do we create a field that can be populated by data we already have. I've also got a question on this, like, if you've got 4 kids, a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior, and it's the same address, how we're going to show 4 different people. So this is another one I could get Becky on this fairly quickly.
Well, I thought it also might do exactly what you said and show us siblings, because if it showed us at least currently enrolled students both living at the same house.
Would it'd be like a twofer, so we know about the sibling and we know about the other one too, right?
Yeah, and there's also applications for address verification, right, where you want to know that kids that are here go here. So, I mean, it might be helpful in that aspect too. I'd be willing to do whatever. I think the thing to do would be, the only other extra field of criteria I thought would be year of graduation, so that we could sort by year to use it kind of as a predictor, at least about, and have a little bit more definition about what the dots were. I don't think we want to put names on there or anything like that, but just addresses and maybe year of graduation indicates how many they have, and then if there's some other field of data that we needed, that the school needed or something, we can certainly include that. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal, and having the big plotter that they do really allows you to make the big printouts and look at that stuff.
So David, would you be available to work with Dr. Littlefield and Becky Nguyen to do that?
Yeah, I think I could, because most of it would probably be electronic anyway, because it's really just getting that spreadsheet. That's which I think would probably be mostly Becky. And they said, just strip away all the stuff that you don't want, so just delete all the fields of other information. And then the other thing, I could work with the town to find out what kind of tools that they currently have.
How does the board feel about David doing that on our behalf?
Do we have to make a motion, or we just tell David?
No, we can.
Or ask
Just
David?
trying to get a sense, because I'm.
No, I'm definitely, obviously he has a forte for it, so, and I think it'd be great information to have, obviously.
I think we should make a motion, because we are going to be passing data to the town, and so that I'd be glad to make a motion that says it excludes names or any school personal information, so that no one is thinking that we are handing over any kind of sensitive information. So I would make a motion that we provide a spreadsheet to the town of the address locations of all of our high school, or all of our students, not containing any personal information.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying.
Just a little bit of discussion. So when we say students, are we K through 8, K through 12, graduates? I know it's, but we've talked about it. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up for discussion. Do we just, you want to just stick with the symbol for now?
Well, I think K through 8 would be good, because we have all of that. When we get into K through, we could go through high school, because we must have their home addresses for qualified being Hooksett. I think graduates gets some dicey,
Yeah.
So I think we could go at it for this level, and then see if we could, because that may be difficult for us to formulate the data for. I don't know.
Right.
K-8 would be more readily available. Because although we know who our high school youngsters are, because we verify that for billing purposes, they're not part of Power School, so they can't be downloaded. So starting it with K-8 would be a nice test.
Okay.
You want to just add that to the motion, all of K-H?
Yeah, let's do that, and then I will speak to that if no one else is speaking. So, and then I think maybe when we get over this busy period, then we could compile high school ones, and then we could plot those after. Because that would be a valuable database as well, especially if we're going to go into agreements where they're in other places and we're trying to track all that information. So.
And I did talk to Becky about doing that. We probably could do it, but not with 100% accuracy. It would be order of magnitude.
Yeah, well, I think the K-8 would be the priority, because obviously 8, 7, they're getting ready to go into high school, so that would be the priority. But if we were going to go use it for the sibling thing, obviously we need more data to do that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0.